Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Adams Rite part number 4570-01-130ST. This is what they would call an ICU latch operator. It is for sliding doors that you are going to see in the triage area of an emergency room, is where I have only ever seen these. Not that they can't be used elsewhere, but that's where I will exclusively end up seeing this material. Now, this is an item that's not listed in the catalog at all. The lock body is listed in the catalog. This is a 5017 lock body. This happens to be a self-latching model. There is a term for this style latch. It might be safety latch. I forget what the proper term is. When the latch comes in contact, rather than it being fixed and being required to manually be retracted, it's a safety latch, and that it will collapse and then relock, in effect being self-latching. So in a sliding door, when they slide that door, it will be in the latched position, even though the function of this lock is basically just it's a passage is what it is. So with the lock body, you're going to get a couple of handles naturally, one for each side of the door. They're identical, except that one is going to rotate counterclockwise and the other is going to rotate clockwise. And they don't rotate, any way other than that. You can install them in this orientation. You can install them in this orientation. It doesn't matter, is the bottom line, how you choose or elect to install those in terms of the hardware itself. This will have a spindle on the back end, and that spindle is going to communicate to a tailpiece or a driver that's here. And when we sell this material, we are selling it to a hospital that says, yeah, I need 12 of these because I've got 30 triage rooms. That cam's going to go on there, and it's just going to rotate. However, you're going to position that on there. And that flat little tail piece is going to communicate to the hub, the slotted hub that's there. We get that put in there. Got that. I'm using the wrong handle on this door. Okay, there's really only one way to time this so that it works. When you get it all installed and put together, and then when the handles are attached, and hold it all together, when you rotate the lever, it will retract the latch. I obviously don't have that timed exactly where it needs to be. My hand is what's keeping it from fully retracting. Okay. So you'll time that. That little driver goes on the back of that spindle that's there. Now, there is actually a link, even though this isn't in the catalog, there is a link below this video to not only a cut sheet of the 5017 lock body. It's just an overview of what the lock body is itself. It does have an adjustment on the end here that will allow you to draw the projection of that bolt out. You may be able to detect that it's moving, or in, allowing you to tailor the installation to the point where it's drawn up tight as possible. Okay. And beyond that, there's really nothing else of note about the lock body. This is a lock body that features a radiused end. This could be ordered with a square end. It's not listed at all that way, but should you have a prep that is square, which I've never seen, I know that we could order these lock bodies with a square end as well. But radiused end is how that's going to normally be provided. Okay, aluminum storefront, whoever is manufacturing the doors, they're using a router to cut that aluminum, and that router bit is going to leave a radiused corner. Let's take some dimensional properties. I'm going to say The width of the faceplate is 0.627. 0.627 overall width. And overall height of the lock body, about 4.5. Overall depth of the lock body, about 1 inch and 9/16. And providing these dimensions just simply to allow you to determine, very accurately, yep, that's the one I have. Since we're taking dimensions, let's take a dimension of... I've never taken one of these apart. I'm sure that they can be reversed should that ever need to be done. I won't do it in this video. 4 3/8 overall height. Overall width, about 1 inch and 5/16. Projection of the base, about 9/16. Overall projection of the lever handle itself, about 2 1/4. So you've got two handles. They're handed. You've got different orientation. We've got the two driver or cam plugs that are there as well. Now there is the 4570 is the ICU, intensive care unit. The ICU latch operator. The 01 is a reference generally to the door thickness. Because I don't have a how to order guide on this, I wouldn't say that this is a kit bashed item, because I don't know where else this lever is used. And this is, by the way, a part number that I'm unsure of what this part number individually would be. The 4570 is all of it. The 5017 is the lock body. And what this handle is, I'm currently unsure of what that is. If there is a part number determined, I'll update this item. There is the rest of the part number, the 130, that's going to stand for aluminum. You can certainly do this in the $121 finish, which is going to be your dark bronze, and 119, which would be black. And those are three typical colors for Adams Rite to do their hardware in. The primary link below this video is the one to the installation instructions, and it will give you an overview of how to install the material. And if you're doing a new installation, you're going to need some additional paperwork. It doesn't give you all of the dimensions necessary. It does give you the function hole dimensions, but does... Actually, no, everything's given to you here. The only thing it doesn't... Okay. I see what they're doing. All right, yeah, there is... okay, it's all here. Forgive me. Let's take a look. Let's study the installation instructions at this point. Okay, let's take a look at that. Okay, now taking a look at those installation instructions, which are here, and again, included with your paperwork. Everything is indeed here, although it's always handy. It is indeed handy to have the hardware available to you when you're reviewing the template, because certain things are not always, at least to me, not always incredibly clear in terms of what the requirements are. So what I'm referring to is this preparation here. If you recall, I gave you earlier the outside dimensions of the lock body itself. Okay. And those dimensions were about 4 3/8 by about 5/8. Okay, well, not 4 1/32 and 5 and 17/32 almost. Well, what the reality is, I gave you the overall size. The reality is the height of the lock body and the thickness of the lock body are such that it's going to sit inside of here. and the faceplate is going to rest on top of this. Okay, so it's going to be surface mounted. The one dimension I did not provide is the thickness of the faceplate, and the thickness of the faceplate is 0.062. So the faceplate thickness, the thickness of this is 0.62, so a 1/16 of an inch. So you're going to make this rectangular prep, and what's important with this sort of material and all mortise locks really is how do we translate the size, the dimensions from the edge of the door to the face of the door. And well, there's the magic dimension, 1.297 inch. Adams Rite does really love these non-fractional sizes. So be mindful that if you're laying this out to prep it, you're going to need maybe a caliper to lay that out. Okay, so you get the center line, and that center line, of course, is going to be a relationship to the hub, where your spindle and your tailpiece are going to communicate to the lock through. So this hole is certainly going to go through the door. 2-hole through prep for the 1032 riv nut. Okay. And admittedly, the template does get a little bit away from us here with all of these holes. So the bottom line is this. This hole and this hole, you're going to drill... Oh, sorry, forgive me. Let's start with this hole and this hole. These two holes with the two concentric circles. You're going to do it 2 times, 0.203 screw side, and 2 times through bolt side, 0.250. Countersink both at 0.4 inch, both sides. So let's take a look at what the heck they're talking about on this hole and this hole. Okay, now what they're talking about is there's a 2.547 inch dimension between those holes. Between that slotted prep and that slotted prep is the 2.547 inch. Okay. These are the bolts that they're referring to. You get 2 sets of them. When you get the lock into the door itself, at some point you're going to through bolt the thing. So what they're saying is the 2x means you're going to do it twice. 2 times 0.203 screw side. So they want you to drill a hole on the screw side of the door, 0.203, and the diameter of this body is 0.184. So 0.203. On the through bolt side, they want a 0.25 hole, and this is measuring 0.249. So yeah, 0.25. Then they want you to countersink 0.4. Well, the outside of the head is 0.373, so they want you to countersink just for the head of these so that these bolts will sit flush. Okay, assuming aluminum, it's going to be 1/8 of an inch thick. You're going to want to be really mindful of how far in you countersink. You don't want to countersink away too large of a hole, because then what you're doing is eroding away the depth of the material. So that's what they're talking about on those 2 hole preps of those concentric circles. Then you have the other holes that are 3 inch center to center. Now that reference is certainly going to be to our 3 inch center to center here. Now, proving the point that this is the term kit bashed is obviously not necessarily accurate. However, it does illustrate the point that you're using things from other things to put them all together, and Adams Rite isn't the only company that does it. Others do it very well to great effect. When the market or a client says, I need to be able to do this, well, there's nothing that does that. But wait, if I take this and I take this and I put them together and I do a couple of these things, all of a sudden you have a solution. So that's where the kit bash comes in. And what I mean by that is you're going to through bolt these, but what would be really nice is if these through bolts kind of went through the lock body, and because of where this is going to line up, you can't run those bolts because there's no hole, at least in one end, there's no way to get a bolt through that lock body. At the other end, where it doesn't interfere with the lock body prep, you could certainly run a through bolt, but what they do is they use these blind, or these riv nuts they call them. So those are the smaller holes. 2 times, you're going to do it twice, through prep for 1032 riv nut. You're actually going to do it 4 times. You're going to do it on each face of the door. So what happens is you are going to install this riv nut into the face of the door, and you're going to get that seated inside of there. And this dimension across the flats is 0.218. 0.218. The dimension at its greatest on the outside corners is about 0.25. So you're going to drill a hole that you're going to be able to get this inserted. The outside diameter of the head of the unit is 0.345. Okay, so what happens with these riv nuts is that they're threaded back into the barrel of this. And when you run this bolt, so you're going to drill 4 holes, 2 on each side, 3-inch center to center, in relationship to the center line of the other holes. You're going to pop these riv nuts in. Then you're going to take this bolt with that thread lock on there, and you're going to run this in through your escutcheon plate, and that riv nut is going to collapse on itself. The inside portion, and there is a small detail to this that shows that it is frangible in the sense that it's meant, frangible means it's meant to break, but this is frangible in the sense that it's meant to collapse. So as you tighten that up, that riv nut is going to collapse onto itself and secure itself over that wall thickness, and you'll do that in 4 places. And that's how you'll secure all of it. So the riv nuts, after everything is prepped and drilled and you've double checked it, the next thing is to get the riv nuts installed. Then you'll get your body installed into the door. Then you're going to run your 2 through bolts and secure the body. Then your trim will come and you'll tighten that to the door. But obviously, test the functionality that you have the rotation of this with the tailpiece assembly correct before you start to screw it down. And looking at the rest of the installation instructions, that back set is crucial. That 1 3/16, 1.187, that is absolutely crucial to get that accurate. The only thing that they're really not talking to us here about is a relationship of where the center line of the lock body would need to be in relationship to the preparation in the jamb. Okay, so they don't tell us that at all. They're probably assuming that you're going to prep the strike after you know where this latch is going to come into place. So you're going to need to create the prep in the frame such that you are going to be able to, collapse that or retract it in such a way that you're going to permit the bolt to enter. If you are approaching it in the self-preserving mode, preserving I think is the term, but if you are going to manually retract that and it's going to that prep in the strike's got to be adequate for that bolt to just hook out like this, okay? And you're going to certainly want the top of the prep to be right near the base of that preparation. Wouldn't want it really much. I might make it no more than 1/8 of an inch so that securely hooks into your preparation. So that prep's going to need to be about the top of here down to where you're going to need, under normal operation, right down to pretty close to the bottom of the lock body will be the height of that prep to get that all working correctly. They don't give us any of that. So on page 1, we've covered why all the holes are there and what they look like. On the right side, kind of gives you an idea of what that countersink certainly will look like. So notes, the following preparation positions the handles in a downward orientation. If desired, the entire preparation can be inverted to have the handles pointing upward. And what they mean is all of it gets flipped over. This will need to get flipped over in that sort of scenario. And the reason that they're saying that you have to flip the entire lock body over is because the only way to get the handles pointed up and the lock body in the standard position would be to rotate the lever towards the jamb. So that wouldn't work. You want to be able to pull the lever away from the jamb in the same direction that the door is sliding. So it does need to be all flipped over. You can't just reverse one half of it without reversing the other half in order for it to work in that correct timed position. Step 1, install riv nuts. As we said, install the lock, secure with the bolts, flathead screws. Page 2 shows you those actuator assemblies, tail pieces, cam plugs. It does give you an idea of what that body looks like in the upper left-hand corner, surface mounted that way. Handle installation, which we quickly talked about earlier, going into those blind riv nuts. Step 2, install actuator assembly into the hub of the lock. Rotate the actuator assembly as shown in figure 4. So figure 4 is up, right side up, also inverted. You can see the orientation of how that's going to look. So when you rotate it counterclockwise, that will throw the lever away from the jamb in relationship to it. And again, it's, it does show it when you study the direction of the arrows, why that is so. And that exhausts everything that's there. We don't sell a lot of these, but when we do, it's certainly going to somebody that has a triage unit every single time, including this time to a military installation. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Adams Rite products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. This is what the package will look like when it arrives to you. Okay, you got your different finishes. If you happen to have a door thickness other than 1 3/4, which I doubt you would, I'm not concerned about that at all, except that you're going to need these longer through bolts. I don't see any trouble about that door thickness being other than 1 3/4. If it's going to get really, if it's going to be thinner than that, we're going to want to talk about if that's going to be a problem, because that body thickness was about 1/2 inch. The length of that riv nut is, pushing 7/16. So that's going to be 7/8 plus your body thickness 0.5, 1 3/8. This wouldn't, by the time you're getting 1 3/8, that's certainly going to be the minimum that this is going to work on. You probably wouldn't need to cut that down at all. Thicker, I don't see a problem with this working on it. Oh, I do see a problem. Those tail pieces are going to be too short. Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a door thickness other than 1 3/4, reach out to us and we'll have to work with the factory to see if it's possible to accommodate. So that link below this video to the manufacturer's page will allow you to pull up not only all of the Adams Rite products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's product catalog. And the name Adams Rite is synonymous with a series of unique solutions or a diversity of product that no other manufacturer really has. And what I mean by that is, if you know Adams Rite, you certainly do so because of aluminum storefront hardware, or electric strikes, or exit devices. But their catalog can be used to great effect, and this piece of equipment is a precise example of that, to use their items to solve otherwise difficult problems. For instance, you've got a pair of doors, and you have flush bolts on the inactive door, but you want to have a cylinder control that inactive door. You want to control via key who goes in and out of that inactive door so as to prevent opening both leaves. Well, they have cylinder-operated flush bolts. They have bottom rail bolts. They have a variety of different piece parts that you can kind of kit bash together to make work. And once you have access to the parts manual, and there is one on that link to the manufacturer's page, you'll be able to see all of the published parts drawings for their items. They don't have every item published as a parts drawing. This would be one of them. But if it's published, it's there, and you can use that information to your advantage to solve problems that are otherwise difficult to solve. You want to install a bottom rail deadbolt into a 3.5-inch door and offset all of that? Sure, you can pull up the drawings, figure out what parts you have to be able to come up with, and work from there. So it's a company that you can use creatively to solve other problems, and their technical support department is responsive. 100% of the time they respond, and that's very much appreciated, and I say thank you. Any questions on the 4570-01-130 or any other Adams Rite product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much.